I'm going to make it easy for people. Everything is about supply and demand, right? The more supply there is, the cheaper it is. The more demand there is, if supply is stable, the more expensive it gets, which is why we've had the problem with prices, because there wasn't supply of oil, but there was demand as everybody came out of pandemic. So what have we got going on in ETH? We've got a gigantic supply shock. So what is the supply shock? The small supply shock is right now, every day, miners are selling ETH. They probably sell 80% of everything they receive because they need to pay for their cash flows and their electricity and all of this stuff. So they stop. That's about 1 or 2 billion a month. Okay, that's nice. But then after that, we've also got the fact that staking's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, there's about 9% of all ETH staked. Now, estimates are it should go up to around 30%. What does that mean? It means 30% of the ETH comes off exchanges, comes out of DeFi, comes out of CeFi, and is untouchable.
Yep.
Right? You're removing a gigantic amount of supply from the market, and it's locked for a year. So you can't do anything about it. Yes, you can trade using wrapped, staked ETH and stuff like that, but it's not the same thing. So you've got this. So you're taking that out of the market. So you've got a huge supply shock. On the other side, you've got a massive demand shock, which is, firstly, a lot of institutions wrongly didn't like Bitcoin because of ESG concerns. Proof of stake gets rid of that. Additionally, it now has a yield. So that's something that institutions love, is a yield. So now you need to make one asset allocation decision, which is, I believe in this Web3 technology world. So where do you allocate? Bitcoin or ETH? It's going to be ETH. Why? Because you're going to get something between a 6 and a 10% yield.
That's right.
So that's extraordinary. Twitter's flinging poo at each other, whether it's a recession or not, and the government stepping in. But basically, 2 quarters of negative GDP, not good. Usually that's given a 100% chance of a recession. We haven't had confirmation yet from things like the ISM survey, the Institute of Supply Managers survey. That usually drops to about 47. I'm expecting that in the next month or two. And then we'll be definitely there. So we're there or thereabouts. It feels that way. The markets have traded that way. We're seeing job cuts coming. We're seeing a lot of evidence, and even the bond market's starting to tell us that. So it feels that the recession is here. Thing that gives you the best guide is something called the ISM survey. And you can Google it, you can find it, it's publicly available. And that basically, anything above 50, the economy's expanding. Anything below 50, it's kind of stalling. And anything below 47 is a recession. And that's been going since about 1947. It's an incredibly good indicator and really useful. So think of it as a kind of weekly version of GDP. So that gives you a very quick ballpark. And what's really interesting that no economists figure out, and I don't understand this, is it goes up and down. It's cyclical, right? Economists have linear projections. It's like, really? You can show a small child a chart of GDP and they go, well, it goes up and down. So what it does, if you see it going down and crossing 50, we're likely to be headed into a weak patch or a recession.
Mm-hmm.
If it's coming up from the lows, we can start looking forwards. So that's a really simple guide. The other way is the bond market's usually very good at this. So once yields start falling, bond markets are generally derive their price action from 2 things, GDP growth and future inflation. So if bond yields are rallying, it's saying that GDP is probably slowing down, i.e. there's a chance of stimulus to come and bonds look a safe haven. And secondly, that inflation is likely to come down in the future. So those 2 things alone give you pretty much all you ever need to know. Now, what's really interesting, the second degree of all of that is there's a bit of magic. So you look at this ISM survey, you go, well, how does it help me with my equity allocation or my allocation? All you do is turn it into a year-on-year chart. And all of the year-on-year charts of every asset, from oil to bonds to commodities, to copper, to equities, to emerging markets, to credit spreads, are all the same chart. They're driven by the business cycle. So always at turning points, there is no consensus, because there's a group that extrapolates the recent trend and says that's going to continue. And there's a group that extrapolates a mean reversion. Now, the question is here is more complicated because we've got these supply issues. We've got, onshoring. We've got other things that are muddying the equation. And what we've got is this big debate. So myself, David Rosenberg, and maybe Urian and a few others kind of think we probably mean revert because of debt, demographics, technology, that inflation's not a long-term issue. But there's a whole other group who I really respect who are saying, no, you're dead wrong. Inflation's sticky, it's here to stay, and it's a big problem. One of the things people talk about agriculture right now. We're going to have this food crisis. Step back and look at the inflation-adjusted prices of agriculture for the last 50 years. It's gone down. Why? It's gone down, even though the population of the world has doubled, it's gone down because of technology.
Like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race. You're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.